Now, in our urban cities and this war on drugs that was here before the war on terror, we have constantly been presented with a singular corporate message, perspective, amount of information about who really suffers in this war on drugs. Who is the person behind the mugshot blasted on Fox News, on ABC, and KATU, all the rest, local to national? Who is the person behind this so-called label they choose to call a criminal? Well, many, many people have recovered from the horrible depths of heroin addiction, crack cocaine addiction, but you never hear from them. You never hear the struggles and the victories. Well, I remember about 6 years ago, I was at the Multnomah County Library downtown, and I found a copy of My Naked Soul by author Savon, Lindsay. One of the most poetic books I've ever picked up pertaining to recovery, pertaining to, if you will, getting outside the matrix. That is, in this reference, getting outside the matrix of alcohol and drug addiction and finding another way out. Savon, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you, Alex, for having me. It's really a privilege to be here. When you first asked me, I was thinking about what was I going to say, and I always have to go get into my humility and find out something from God, because He's the reason why I'm here today. Thanks.
I just want to read a paragraph from the first part of the book.
Okay.
Click, click, click. Suddenly it was the scary, distinctive sound of a handgun. But for some reason, the gun wasn't blowing the top of my head off. One of Reggie's brothers was pulling the trigger, and every time the gun clicked, my body flinched because I thought I had been shot. My hands were going crazy trying to feel a bullet wound, but there was none, no blood, no anything. But this dude was still pulling the trigger. Savon, tell me a little bit about My Naked Soul, what it's about, and what you meant by that passage there.
Okay, at the time when this gun was being presented, it was kind of funny. I was scared to death. And what happened was, this is basically just one of the things that addicts go through. We go through the life-threatening situations. And, basically I was in a dope house. I had beat this girl out of all her money, and I went over here to the dope house, and we were actually getting loaded. And her brothers, not liking their sister to be taken advantage of, they came over looking for me. And it had to be, and I talk about it in the book, it had to be a divine intervention, because I went and checked that situation out later on. And the guy that was pulling the trigger, that gun had killed somebody later on. And he had ended up doing 25 years of life. And I had ended up, continuing into my drug use.
About how old were you when you first started using drugs, and what kind of drugs were you using?
The first time I was using drugs, I was about 9, 10 years old. And, well, actually 7 years old. And, it was alcohol at first. I was my introductory to drugs, and I went on from there. And what happens is, for me, my story is that, I was attracted to that street life, that lifestyle.
Right.
And before I even, picked up a drug or a drink, and being addicted to that lifestyle took me to the penitentiaries, the jailhouses, the near deaths, just like when I was in that dope house that day. But the most amazing thing is that, after the ambulance came and took me to the hospital because I had overdosed, I ended up in the Kern County morgue. And I didn't think about that too much. What was on my mind after I found out that I wasn't going to die was where in the world I could go someplace that time of night and get me some more drugs like that. Now that has to be insane, but that's the power of addiction.
Savon, what fascinates me about your story in the book is the essence of what you're writing, I don't think is any different than what a lot of people feel. You know, you were using drugs for a reason.
Right,
and you were hiding from something, from what I gathered, and then it took a period of time to climb out of that. Could you add a little to that? Give us an idea of, you know, why you used drugs and what were some of the things that helped you get out of the prison you were in?
Okay, I think you know, to elaborate on that is that I always felt uncomfortable in my own skin. I always felt that I wasn't good enough. And the alcohol, it made me feel that I could just be Savon. I could fit in finally. And, you know, then I got hooked up with, you know, the people that drank and the people that were using drugs. And finally I could fit in. You know, it was I think that was the reasoning behind me first getting into this drug and alcohol scene.
Being a part of the norm.
Being a part of the norm.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes the norm isn't the best way to go.
Right. Because I could never really feel, you know, a part of.
Now, you had mentioned when you were young, you ran into some trouble with the law. What happened with that situation, which led you to prison later on?
You know, law always comes with the drugs and the alcohol because criminality comes with that because you have to, you know, get money for your drugs. But I believe first when I really did a good stretch was in 1969, and I was in San Francisco. You know, I got involved with drugs and alcohol. I didn't have any money, and you know, I proceeded to try to rob this gentleman, and I ended up with a kidnap, a robbery, and a kidnapping, so you know that started this journey of alcohol and drugs. But you know, now as I kind of reflect back, even before that though, I was being involved in that type of lifestyle, you know, 11, 12, 13 years old, you know, because I remember being a juvenile and, you know, but just getting the taste of what was going to happen later on in my life. But, you know, there's choices, and that's what this recovery gave me. See, because I was always blaming somebody else. I was always blaming the judge, the penitentiaries, you know, my mother's prayers. You know, it was always something that I would blame.
So we're talking about at this point using your free will and adopting responsibility for your actions and then trying to change the situation you're in?
Right. And, you know, like what I had to do is realize that it was my fault. And when I realized that it was my fault and not somebody else's fault, then I was able to get into recovery and start changing my life.
Now, we were talking earlier in the program, we've talked a lot about covert actions that the government has been involved in. One of them is being CIA running cocaine into the streets.
Yes.
Now, that's a problem, and then there are, you would say, you know, fingers to point. But for one who is addicted and trying to hide from themselves, you're saying then there is a point where you have to take responsibility for your own actions if you're participating in the cycle.
Right. Well, you know, I've always, you know, after I got into recovery, realized that I had to take responsibility of what was going on with Savon. You know, I could get into politics, and, you know, we talked about that.
Right.
You know, about the CIA in the 70s dropping drugs in the community and that kind of thing. But I had to go somewhere else.
I understand.
Yes.
So let's talk about that place. What is that? What is recovery for Savon? Or what worked for you that could work for someone watching this program right now suffering from the same thing?
The main reason why I'm on this show and, you know, go on other shows and radio and that kind of thing is to show people out there that if recovery can work for me, it can work for them. You know, you take a gentleman like myself, over 30, 40 years of drug addiction, penitentiaries in California, you know, near deaths. These are things that happened to me. And then getting into recovery, realizing that it was my responsibility to take a step in the right direction. And by me giving this message away to the viewers, I'm basically getting something back from it. And this is how I stay clean.
That was exactly my next point.
Yeah.
The idea of giving back so you become stronger.
Yes, you know, and that's always been, one of the main things of this recovery is that when we give it away, we get a chance to keep it. And it's kind of a paradox, but I've learned from that, and I really understand today that that I get a chance to really live a fruitful and rich life. You know, because today, you know, I can live in my own skin, and I feel comfortable living in my own skin.
I think what's interesting about what you're saying and your story is that it applies to a lot of us in our own way. Addiction beyond that of hard drugs, cocaine or heroin would be addiction to the TV or addiction to war, addiction to violence, and we talk a lot about addictions to those things on this program. It seems that this idea of addiction isn't about the physical substance, but the idea of seeking something outside of yourself. What have you found out or discovered in this journey of recovery in that area?
Okay, you know, I was just, when you were talking about on a more broader scene, addiction, yes, it can, you know, with gambling, television, you know, I found myself, you know, watching TV too much, and I get so, and because I have an addictive personality, you see, and anything that makes Savon feel good, you know, I'm into. And, you know, somebody asked me the other day, what type of drugs did I take? And I would say, you know, more of whatever. It really didn't matter. You know, it could be heroin, cocaine, or it could be television. You see, that kind of thing. Anything that take me out of Savon. But in my case, it was, you know, the heroin and the cocaine and that kind of thing. And that lifestyle. And after I got, you know, realized that there was another way, when I realized, getting into those rooms of recovery, that there was another way. My talent has always been in my writing. And I was able to write, I think I have, what, four books now that are published. And,
go ahead and tell us a little bit about
thing.
them and the content inside.
You know, my first book, you know, I hooked up with the African American Writers Workshop, which was invaluable to me. I realized from them that there was an avenue that would show me how to actually publish my own work. And I wrote The Soul of an Addict, which is a chapbook, and it's all poetry. And then I wrote Tired of Being Sick and Tired, which is poetry with a short story of my life in the back. And then I realized if I could write these chapbooks, well then what's really selling is my experience, and not just poetry. So I ended up writing my autobiography, my first autobiography, which is My Naked Soul, the startling autobiography of a black recovering addict. And now my latest book, The Journey Continues. So I've always had the talent to write, and now I can actually say to the viewers that, you know, I am a success story, and only with God. See, He has to come first in my life. You know, I wanted to definitely stress that.
Now, there's someone watching who's, say, a Christian, and they hear the word God, or a Muslim, or someone who's an atheist, or someone who's a Buddhist. They may have a perception that is different than yours in terms of God. Now, in recovery circles, that's okay.
It's okay. It doesn't matter what God, you can be a Christian, atheist, Muslim, it really doesn't matter. As long as you have the willingness, the honesty, and open-mindedness, you can get clean, and you can stay clean, one day at a time. You know, I've always said, you know, that the world's record is 24 hours.
That's interesting. So it is a power of your own understanding. I think the premise then is it's a power above yourself as opposed to making your ego God?
Yeah, as opposed to making, because I definitely don't want to get into my ego, you know.
Yeah.
I believe that that's one of the things that kept me out there for so long was my ego. And after I got outside of myself and realized that there was a power greater than myself, you know, my grandmother and mother would tell me, you know, their particular God. And, you know, and today I do believe in that God. But that's not the issue. The issue is that that God, he came to me when I needed him the most. And, you know, and I was able to go to him for help. And he helped me. You know, he came.
Would you
yes.
share a passage from the book?
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I thought you were going to share this passage, but I guess I
I'll
will.
leave that one up to you.
But yes, right here, and this is from the first chapter, and basically from the womb to the tomb, a bottle, a bag, a rock you feast, from the womb to the tomb, in the belly of the beast, the county morgue and a life of crime, as you scream for a hit one more time. A bottomless pit, trapped with scorn, a dope fiend dies, but another one was born. There was an overcast of grayish blue skies as the moon seemed to cry out in a desperate attempt to flee the inescapable night. There was talk of rain in the small town of Bakersfield, California, but the night seemed to explode as I found the vein I had been looking for. Heroin, China White, that's what it was called at that time, sometime in January 1981. I was 31 years old, a hope-to-die dope fiend. China White had come out many years before I had tried it, but it was known to all for its pure whiteness and the overwhelming power it possessed. I had just gotten out to Kern County Jail, another jailhouse, another institution, and I thought I owed it to myself to get loaded because, after all, I was a dope fiend. Besides, this time, I came out with the magic formula on the street game. Crack cocaine was getting popular at that time, and there I was, somewhere with a spike in my arm and a pipe in my mouth. Thanks.
Beautiful. It's a long story. It's a lot of people don't understand the life of addiction, the life of what it's like. But from everything I've seen, from addiction, whatever form it may be, we're all the same people, and sometimes we go through the same stuff, and sometimes we slip, we fall, and we go down those dark alleys. You know, but I think what you are is a testimony that there is a way out, and there are human stories, there are human elements right here in a police state that aren't exposed on mainstream TV. And that's why I appreciate your story and the hard work you did to put this book together.
Yeah.
Now, you're flying around the nation sometimes, going and speaking at different events, at different recovery circles and groups here?
Well, I get there the best way I know how. Sometimes I fly when my money's right.
Sometimes you gotta drive.
And sometimes I catch the bus, sometimes, you know, drive if that's available. However, I need to get to the place to speak out and let people know that there's hope. And what was told to me is that if I ran after my recovery or trying to help people the way I ran after my drug addiction and my alcoholism, that I could stay here. And that's another reason where I get the energy to go out. And, you know, like I said before, come on shows like this, radio, and we're actually now trying to come up with a movie that will really express the hope in my book.
Yeah, there aren't actually a lot of Hollywood movies about recovery, about climbing out of addiction. There are a lot that kind of focus on the war stories and the horror of addiction, but I haven't seen a whole lot talking about the actual process of recovery. But in any case, I really appreciate you coming to Outside the Box and sharing this information. If someone was looking for assistance other than their own voice, where could someone turn who's watching this program that is needing help, that is suffering?
I would. They have some organizations that people can get in contact. They can go to the library and get online. I believe there's some 12-step programs that are out there. That's the avenue that I went down. That doesn't necessarily have to be for that person, but as I was saying before, it takes willingness, open-mindedness, and honesty.
Thank you, Savon, for coming on the program.
Thank you, brother.
All right. My Naked Soul, and you can also check it out, the Multnomah County Library as well, or just run My Naked Soul through Google and you get some information on that as well. This next video features Savon doing his spoken word thing in the background. In the meantime, you have editing and filmed by Mike Harrop, who has a program here at PCM. So when we come back, we are going to cover some bombshell information pertaining to 9/11, what's happening in the Mediterranean Sea, and much, much more. Stick around.
Nothing but horrible, incredible pain, feverish shakes, bowels ache, and creeping, crawling vein. And now it's about homicide or suicide. And round about now, you wouldn't care if your mama died. A spiritual death, nothing like it in the world. Possessed by a drug, some call crack, others call it girl. King Heroin, the beast of the feast, but he'll get you too, to say the least. Residue, a rock or two, and the more you smoke, the less you knew. Crawling on hands and knees for a kibble or a bit, and a dope fiend scream for his next hit. Whether you're a gangster or would-be hoe, teacher, preacher, or sports hero, bet money on the spoon, that dope thing will take you dead to your doom. 24/7 around the clock, like the walking dead, searching, lurking for that incestuous rock. It's life or death and nothing in between, and the reality of things are just blown away dreams. For too many years you used to live and live to use. Smoked crack cocaine, shot dope in your veins, and drank plenty of booze. And then came the soup lines, the dirt and the grind. It was always the same old thing, time after time. But it's a new day, y'all, and we can have a ball without drugs and alcohol. So say no to dope, and give your brothers and sisters your love, strength, and hope. And remember what God said, that faith without works is dead. So come hell or high water, live or die, when you really get tired of being sick and tired. Tired of being sick and tired. Tired of being sick and tired. Tired of being sick and tired.